The long-awaited Mortal Kombat sequel is finally hitting theaters in May, and the moment the sequel was officially announced, it became obvious that this movie is operating on a much bigger scale than the first one. The budget didn't just quietly go up, it reportedly jumped by around $30 million, and in blockbuster language that usually means everything gets bigger at once. The world expands, the stakes rise, the characters literally get larger, and the cast grows fast. And that's exactly what's happening here. We already know that the sequel is bringing in a massive wave of characters who were completely absent from the first film. Jade is finally joining the roster, Johnny Cage is stepping into the spotlight, and Karl Urban has been cast in a role that's clearly meant to be the new face of the franchise, not just for this movie, but potentially for the future of Mortal Kombat on the big screen. And that future depends on one simple thing. If the second movie performs well and brings Warner Bros. And New Line serious money, a third film is basically inevitable. The interesting part is that both director Simon McQuoid and writer Jeremy Slater have already hinted more than once that this sequel is not the end game. In their own words, the second movie is more like the midpoint, a major escalation before things get much darker and much bigger. If you know Mortal Kombat lore even on a surface level, you can tell that the first movie was essentially an introduction. Through Cole Young, the audience was slowly walked into this universe, the rules, the realms, and the idea of the tournament itself. Shang Tsung functioned as the main villain, but in a very restrained way. What we saw was the opening move, not the real war. The sequel is where the gloves come off. This time we are promised an actual tournament, something that was completely missing in the first film, and that alone changes the tone entirely. Shao Kahn is now officially part of the picture, portrayed by Martin Ford, and his presence alone signals a massive shift in power dynamics. This is no longer just sorcerers pulling strings from the shadows. This is the Emperor of Outworld stepping forward. Shang Tsung is also returning, but now in a different position. Instead of acting independently, he is fully aligned as a servant of Outworld, playing his role as a manipulator within a much larger hierarchy. But there is one character who, strangely enough, is being kept almost completely hidden. No clear shots in the trailer, no official first look, barely any promotional material. And honestly, I hope it stays that way until release, because this is one of those characters where costume design, makeup, and overall presence really matter. That character is Quan. Quan Chi is being played by Damon Herriman, an actor who isn't a household name but is quietly one of the most interesting casting choices in the entire sequel. If you've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or Mindhunter, you've already seen him deliver two completely different takes on the same role, Charles Manson. That alone says a lot about his range. Now he's stepping into the role of one of the most important villains in Mortal Kombat history, and this is where things get really interesting. Anyone who has played even a single game, whether it's the classic timeline or the rebooted one, knows that Quan Chi is not just another evil wizard. He is one of the core architects of the entire saga. So many key events simply do not happen without him. The death of Hanzo's family, the resurrection of Bihan as Noob, the rise of Revenants, the invasion of Earthrealm by Shinnok. Quan is the connective tissue behind decades of storylines. He is not a villain you use once and discard. That's why it's almost guaranteed that he will survive the second movie. He is not a one-film antagonist. The primary villains here are Shao Kahn, Shang Tsung, and Quan Chi. And just like in the classic canon, both sorcerers are serving the Emperor. But anyone familiar with the lore knows where this leads. Eventually, Shang Tsung and Quan Chi form the Deadly Alliance. That storyline is sitting right there, waiting to be adapted. From there, the doors open wide. Shinnok becomes a real possibility. Onaga becomes a real possibility. I genuinely think that if this cinematic universe makes it to a fourth film, Onaga could easily be teased as the ultimate threat. Right now, the real question is direction. Shao Kahn might end up being a one-movie villain. And yes, that sounds crazy, but there have been rumors about reshoots after test screenings specifically focused on the third act. There was talk that Warner Bros. Injected an additional $15 million into the production late in the process, pushing the overall budget into the 120 to 130 million range. Nothing official has been confirmed, but the implication is that the ending may have been significantly altered. If that's true, then everything we think we know about Shao's fate could be wrong. He could fall in this movie, clearing the board for something far worse to rise from behind the scenes. Quan Chi in the games is not just powerful, he is absurdly dangerous in subtle ways. He can move freely between realms, manipulate reality, and practice necromancy on a massive scale. His entire identity is tied to death and resurrection. And this is where things start lining up perfectly with what we already know about the sequel. Actors who played characters that died in the first film are officially returning. That alone strongly suggests the Revenant storyline is coming into play. Ed Boon himself has hinted at it. Quan Chi is the key to that arc. He is the one one who raises the dead, binds their souls, and turns fallen warriors into weapons. He doesn't rely on brute force. He plays long games. He lies, manipulates, and uses layered plans that don't pay off until much later. Watching his dynamic with Shang Tsung could be one of the best parts of the sequel. Whether he openly serves the Emperor throughout the film or begins subtly hinting at his own true master is the big mystery. In the newer timeline, Quan Chi initially serves Shao as a loyal sorcerer and advisor, helping him in the war against Earthrealm. But behind the scenes, he is actually working for Shinnok. He deliberately pushes Shao into breaking the rules of the tournament and defying the Elder Gods, fully aware that they will eventually intervene and destroy him. Shao Kahn becomes a pawn, a shield, and a distraction. Quan Chi creates chaos between realms, ensuring that when Shinnok finally arrives, the universe is already fractured and vulnerable. If the sequel follows even part of that logic, Shao Kahn's defeat could come not from a warrior, but from the rules themselves. The Elder Gods stepping in would be a powerful way to remove him without undermining his strength. And from there, the Deadly Alliance could rise, setting the stage for summoning either Shinnok or Onaga as the true endgame threat. Test screening rumors suggest Shao Kahn is defeated outright in the sequel. If that version makes it to theaters, then Shang Tsung and Quan Chi teaming up feels almost inevitable. Everything starts pointing in that direction. If Shao survives instead, then his fall could be saved for the third movie, with Shinnok emerging afterward as the ultimate boss in a loose adaptation of Mortal Kombat X. Right now, all of this sits in the realm of leaks, rumors, and educated guesses. Different people who claim to have seen early versions of the sequel describe different outcomes. But no matter which path the filmmakers choose, Quan Chi sits at the center of it all. He ties together the Revenants, the death of Hanzo's family, and the larger invasion narrative. Scorpion fully aligning himself with Earthrealm feels like the natural outcome here, and Quan Chi being revealed as the true architect behind his suffering would give that arc real emotional weight. And let's not forget the Amulet of Shinnok, which already appeared in the first movie. That wasn't a throwaway reference, that was a promise. Whether it pays off in the sequel or the eventual third film, it's clear that Mortal Kombat is playing the long game now. One important thing that hasn't been shown or even properly hinted at yet is Quan Chi's visual and thematic presence as a character. We still haven't seen his actual look, his skin tone, his markings, his eyes, or how far the filmmakers are willing to push his unsettling, otherworldly design. And that's a big deal because Quan Chi is not just another sorcerer in robes. In the games, his appearance alone communicates death, corruption, and something fundamentally wrong with reality around him. And so far, the marketing has completely avoided that reveal. We also haven't seen how his magic actually works on screen, whether his necromancy will feel ritualistic and dark or more aggressive and violent, and whether his connection to the Netherrealm will be visually distinct from Shang Tsung's soul magic. Most importantly, we still don't know if the movie will openly acknowledge that Quan Chi is the long game villain, the one thinking 10 steps ahead, because none of the trailers or official materials show him manipulating events, resurrecting the dead, or quietly pulling strings behind Shao Kahn and Shang Tsung. That absence feels intentional, and if they're saving all of that for the movie itself, Quan Chi could end up being the biggest surprise of the entire sequel.